When you enter your 50s, something powerful happens inside your brain. Something most people never hear about because society loves to repeat the myth that aging means decline, that learning slows down, that growth stops. But neuroscience shows the opposite. Your 50s are one of the most extraordinary periods for deep learning, mastery, reinvention, and unlocking abilities you never had time or clarity to develop when you were younger. This is not motivational talk. This is neurobiology backed by real scientific research. For decades, people believed that the brain reaches its peak in your 20s and then slowly fades. But modern MRI studies, cognitive research, and long term brain scans prove that the adult brain, especially the brain past 50, has unique strengths that younger brains do not have. The first myth we need to destroy is that neuroplasticity disappears with age. That is completely false. Neuroplasticity doesn't vanish, it evolves. It becomes more selective, more focused, more purposeful. Instead of the chaotic plasticity of childhood, where the brain tries to absorb everything, the 50-plus brain becomes efficient plasticity, a form that allows you to learn deeply, strategically, and meaningfully. Scientists call this experience-based plasticity, and it is strongest when a person has rich life experience, emotional maturity, and a clear sense of purpose, all of which peak in your 50s. In fact, research from Harvard and UC Berkeley shows that the combination of crystallized intelligence, your accumulated knowledge, pattern recognition, and wisdom, and refined emotional intelligence reaches its highest levels between 50 and 70. This means that when you learn something new at this age, your brain connects it to decades of experience, allowing deeper understanding, faster integration, and better long-term retention compared to younger adults. The mature brain does not learn less, it learns smarter. One of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience is that the adult brain produces new neurons throughout life, especially in the hippocampus, the area responsible for learning and memory. Studies published in Nature Medicine show that even people in their 70s continue to generate new neurons, and this process increases dramatically when they begin learning new skills, languages, instruments, or mentally challenging hobbies. This means that learning something new at 50 doesn't just maintain your brain, it grows your brain. But why does learning after 50 work so effectively? The answer lies in three core neurobiological mechanisms that become uniquely powerful in midlife. The first mechanism is targeted dopaminergic reinforcement. Younger people get dopamine from novelty, chaos, and distraction. Adults over 50 get dopamine from meaning, clarity, and alignment with personal values. This means that when you choose to learn something that truly interests you, not something forced, not something for school, but something aligned with your identity, your brain releases dopamine far more efficiently. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that tells the brain, this matters. Build neural pathways for this. The second mechanism is increased myelination stability. Myelin, the fatty sheath around your neurons, helps you perform skills faster and more efficiently. While young adults may build myelin faster, adults over 50 maintain it more consistently, and which means once you learn a skill, it sticks. This is why people who learn a musical instrument, a language, or a form of art after 50 often keep the skill for life. The third mechanism is enhanced prefrontal cortex regulation. Your prefrontal cortex, the center of planning, decision-making, discipline, and focus, becomes more stable with age. Instead of being hijacked by emotions, impulses, or social pressure, the mature brain can focus deeply without the internal chaos younger adults experience. And attention is the foundation of memory. When you focus, you learn. When you focus deeply, you learn permanently. This is why adults over 50 often make faster progress than 20-year-olds when learning something they genuinely care about. There is also what neuroscientists call semantic integration, meaning your brain doesn't store new information as isolated data. It connects everything to the entire network of your life experiences. For example, if a 20-year-old and a 55-year-old both start learning photography, the 20-year-old may learn the technical steps, but the 55-year-old connects composition to decades of visual experience, connects storytelling to decades of human understanding, and connects patience to decades of emotional regulation. The older brain learns more deeply because it sees meaning everywhere. A study from the University of Texas showed that adults aged 50 to 70 who learned 3 new skills simultaneously, painting, photography, and a new language, experienced cognitive improvements equal to or greater than people in their 20s. Their memory improved, their processing speed improved, their problem solving improved, their sense of purpose improved, their mood improved. Learning literally rejuvenated their brain. Another study from psychological science found that adults who learn new skills after 50 reduce their risk of cognitive decline by up to 5 times. Not by doing puzzles or passive brain games, but by learning something genuinely challenging. And here's the secret scientists emphasize: challenge grows the brain, comfort shrinks it. When you push into something unfamiliar, like coding, painting, speaking Italian, playing piano, studying astronomy, learning filmmaking, starting a business, your brain activates growth pathways that younger adults rarely activate because most of their learning is forced or routine. The older brain learns by choice, and choice is the most powerful driver of plasticity. Another advantage people rarely consider: emotional stability. In your 50s, your stress response is more regulated, your self-awareness is stronger, your patience is deeper, and your fear of judgment is lower. This psychological maturity gives you one of the strongest cognitive advantages possible: the freedom to learn without fear. Younger adults often fear embarrassment or failure. Adults over 50 simply say, "Let me try." That mindset accelerates learning dramatically. Neuroscience also shows that having a purpose amplifies neuroplasticity. When learning connects to identity, I want to create, I want to grow, I want to reinvent myself. The brain learns 2 to 4 times faster because the motivational centers fire in sync with memory centers, meaning multiplies memory. This is why your 50s are not the end of your growth. They are the beginning of your mastery. You now have the time, the self-awareness, the motivation, the emotional intelligence, and the neurological infrastructure to become excellent at something new. And there is no limit to what you can learn. New language? Perfect time. New technology? Perfect time. New career? Perfect time. New business? Perfect time. New art form? Perfect time. New instrument? Perfect time. New body? New skills? New identity? Perfect time. Every scientific study leads to the same conclusion: your brain at 50 plus is not shutting down, it is waking up. And the moment you start learning something new, your brain responds with the neurobiological equivalent of a rebirth. Your hippocampus grows, your connections strengthen, your memory sharpens, your mood lifts, your creativity expands, your confidence returns, your brain becomes younger. So if there is something inside you that says, "I want to start," listen to it. It is not fantasy. It is your brain asking for growth. The best time to learn something new is not your childhood, not your 20s, not your 30s. The best time is the moment when you are finally ready. And for millions of people around the world, that moment is their 50s. This is your decade of reinvention. This is your decade of expansion. This is your decade of mastery. Your brain is ready. Your life is ready. The perfect time is now. Most people think that learning something new in your 50s is harder because the brain has slowed down. But neuroscience shows that what actually slows down is not the brain. It's lifestyle patterns, routines, lack of novelty, and years of repeating the same behaviors. When life becomes predictable, the brain receives fewer stimulation signals, and that makes people think learning is harder. But when you introduce novelty, challenge, and passion back into your daily experience, the brain reactivates the same plasticity networks that powered you when you were younger. This means the barrier is not age. The barrier is stagnation. And stagnation at any age, 20, 30, 50, or 70, shuts down growth. Once you break the routine, your brain wakes up. This is why neuroscientists call learning the oxygen of the brain. In your 50s, you have something younger adults do not have: emotional clarity, identity stability, life perspective, reduced social anxiety, more controlled impulses, and far fewer distractions. You know who you are, what you want, what matters, and what doesn't. All of that gives you a massive cognitive advantage. Younger people jump between interests, older adults commit. And commitment is what wires new skills deeply. One of the most transformative findings in brain science is the role of long-term focus in creating permanent neural circuits. Younger brains scatter attention. Mature brains hold attention. When you practice a skill with mature, intentional focus, the learning speed doubles or triples. This is why many people in their 50s master painting, music, writing, photography, coding, languages, or entrepreneurial skills far more quickly than teenagers. Another powerful advantage is emotional regulation. The calmer the brain, the better it learns, because cortisol, the stress hormone, disrupts plasticity. Young adults experience emotional chaos, social pressure, hormonal imbalance, identity anxiety, and constant comparison, which all overload the brain. Older adults, especially past 50, experience hormonal balance, emotional resilience, and a quieter mind. This creates the ideal neurological environment for high level learning. This is why many scientists believe that the golden age for deep learning is not youth, it's maturity. Now let's talk about something even more important: motivation. Not the shallow type of motivation you see online, but deep, intrinsic neurochemical motivation. In your 50s, motivation no longer comes from external validation. It comes from meaning. You're not chasing grades, approval, or competition. You're chasing purpose, fulfillment, creativity, connection, curiosity, and personal evolution. This is the purest and strongest form of motivation because it activates the dopaminergic reward system in a stable, sustainable way. When learning matters to your identity, dopamine and epinephrine synchronize, creating what neuroscientists call deep learning windows. During these windows, you absorb information incredibly fast. In youth, these windows appear randomly. After 50, you can trigger them intentionally by choosing something meaningful to learn. Meaning creates momentum, and momentum is the fuel of mastery. One of the most important things people learn after 50 is that mastery is not for the lucky, it's for the consistent. Consistency is the superpower older adults naturally possess. In your 20s, you want fast results. In your 50s, you understand the power of steady growth. And steady growth builds unstoppable neural architecture. Research from Stanford shows that adults over 50 who practice a skill consistently for just 15 minutes a day build stronger neural connections than younger adults who practice sporadically for hours. The key is rhythm, not intensity, and older adults excel at rhythm. Something else happens in your 50s that no one talks about: increased creativity. Creativity doesn't belong to the young, it belongs to the curious. Studies of Nobel Prize winners show that some of the most groundbreaking ideas came from people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s because maturity allows you to connect ideas in ways younger adults cannot. You have decades of memories, experiences, stories, insights, failures, successes, and emotional lessons. The brain uses all of that to generate innovative connections. This is called combinatorial creativity, and it peaks in midlife. That's why some of the most creative achievements in history were made by people who started late or reinvented themselves. Age didn't limit them, it positioned them. Another misconception needs to be destroyed: the idea that older adults can't compete with younger generations in technology, digital skills, or modern industries. The truth is the opposite. Younger people might have speed, but older people have depth. Technology today rewards depth, thoughtfulness, strategy, clarity, communication, creativity, emotional intelligence, and problem solving. These are mature brain strengths. That's why adults who learn technology in their 50s often surpass younger workers quickly. They combine new skills with life experience, discipline, and critical thinking. The tech world is full of people who started late and succeeded massively because they brought something younger adults couldn't: perspective. Next, let's talk about memory. People believe memory fades with age, but that's only partly true. What actually fades is rote memory, the type of memory used for memorizing random facts you don't care about. But meaningful memory, conceptual understanding, pattern recognition, emotional memory, and experience-based memory, all of these become stronger with age. If you learn something that has meaning, your brain encodes it deeply. This is why older adults learn languages more effectively when the learning is connected to real-life use, culture, travel, or personal stories. Meaning transforms memory. But the biggest advantage people unlock in their 50s is identity freedom. In youth, you shape who you are. In adulthood, you express who you've become. But in your 50s, you finally gain the freedom to reinvent yourself without the pressure of proving anything to anyone. This creates an internal permission that younger people rarely have. You can choose. You can start fresh. You can evolve. You can rediscover parts of yourself you left behind years ago. And when you give yourself permission to learn without pressure, your brain opens like a flower. This psychological shift activates neuroplasticity more powerfully than any supplement, exercise, or technique. Freedom fuels growth. Let's also talk about the biological side of growth, neurogenesis. The idea that the brain stops producing new neurons after childhood was proven false. Adults produce new neurons throughout life, especially when they engage in enriched learning environments, activities that challenge the brain, stimulate curiosity, and require attention. Learning a new skill triggers neurogenesis in the hippocampus. Physical activity boosts it. Social engagement boosts it. Creativity boosts it. Purpose boosts it. When people in their 50s combine learning with movement, community, or creativity, neurogenesis increases dramatically. This is why people who pick up dancing, painting, languages, writing, martial arts, or music at 50 often feel mentally sharper, emotionally lighter, and physically more energized within weeks. Their brain is literally rebuilding itself. Another secret advantage of the 50-plus brain is long-term emotional integration. Younger brains react. Older brains respond. Reaction is fast but shallow. Response is slow but deep. Deep emotional processing improves learning because it improves understanding. You don't just memorize, you internalize. You don't just know, you comprehend. This is why older adults often become excellent mentors, teachers, creators, and thinkers. They transform knowledge into wisdom. One more powerful truth: confidence. Not the loud confidence of youth, but the calm confidence of experience. This confidence allows you to embrace failure, not as a threat, but as a natural part of growth. Failure becomes data, not judgment. And when failure is no longer scary, learning accelerates rapidly. This fearless learning is unique to people who have lived enough life to stop caring about embarrassment. Fear disappears. Curiosity takes over. And curiosity is the engine of intelligence. Scientists say that curiosity activates the reward system even more intensely than success because curiosity creates anticipation. And anticipation creates dopamine spikes that supercharge learning. Adults over 50 who cultivate curiosity often outperform younger learners in both speed and depth. Finally, the most important truth: it's never too late to become the version of yourself you were meant to be. Your 50s are not a closing chapter, but an opening gateway. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your mastery. You are entering the decade where your brain, your experience, your clarity, your focus, your purpose, and your freedom align. You are not limited by age. You are strengthened by it. And the moment you choose to learn something new, the universe inside your brain expands. So choose. Start now. Your future self is ready.